Hey, this is Evan Marc Katz, dating and relationship coach for smart, strong, successful women and your personal trainer for love. Welcome back to the Love You podcast, where you can learn everything there is to learn about dating, relationships, sex, and men from a man's point of view. I am excited for today's event. I do a lot of yapping on my podcast. It's really easy to just turn on the camera, write a couple of bullet points, and talk for 15 to 20 minutes. But every once in a while, I like to mix it up by talking to some of the extremely bright and interesting people that I think you should know about because they can help lend perspective on the world in which you inhabit. We all have blind spots. We're all doing the best we can. And today's guest is going to be I'm going to say, I'm going to go big enough to say she's going to be transcendent. She's going to talk about stuff that is so important that you never even considered before. Before we get to that, I want to thank you for listening to the podcast. I want to thank you for your outpouring of support, all the positive reviews. Make sure if you haven't already, subscribe on Apple, subscribe on Spotify, subscribe on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, and don't forget to leave a nice comment. I read and respond to most of them. Next Extraordinary Love series is coming up. I just got to get this out of the way at the beginning. Next Extraordinary Love series is coming up, so go to extraordinaryloveseries.com, put in your name and email address, and we'll do a lecture and a live Q&A on a different dating and relationship topic for high-value women every single month. You don't want to miss it. Most people charge like $47 a month for this crap. I do it for free. That's how much I love you. Without further ado, today's guest is Keren Eldad. Her bio is what I wish my bio was. A thought leader in the coaching world, Keren Eldad specializes in taking high achievers out of the futility of constant pursuit and into the greatest levels of success and fulfillment. Her coaching clients include Olympic athletes, politicians, Hollywood stars, supermodels, special forces operatives, and serial entrepreneurs. Sounds like my last dinner party. She is the founder of The Club, a community of leaders, entrepreneurs, and coaches who encourage and support each other to reach their fullest potential and make their greatest contribution. I don't know what the membership is to the club, but I'm volunteering. Recognized as a top 10 executive coach by the ICF, Real Leaders Magazine, and Goop, Keren maintains gold standard coaching credentials on top of her advanced academic degrees from the London School of Economics, the University of Jerusalem. She's also a former C-suite executive who's lived and worked in 17 countries on 4 continents and now coaches leaders around the globe in 4 languages: English, Spanish, Hebrew, and French, with 500,000 views on her TED Talks and speaking engagements all over the world. Her message seems to transcend borders. She hopes it resonates with you. Coach Keren resides in Austin, Texas, with her husband Ryan and many beloved pets. Welcome, Coach Keren.
Evan, thank you so much. That bio makes me sound very, very old, but
Uh,
I love it.
Old enough to have accomplished something very important, and old enough to aware that when one talks about oneself, it's hard not to sound like you're bragging, but those
Yeah.
were all things that you've actually really done.
I mean, it's been 30 freaking years since the army, so it's been a long life.
And so you're still younger than I am, which is great.
Oh,
Which is
thank
great.
you. I'm glad at least one person is over 48.
That is correct. I'm turning 53 in about a month. So
Wow, congratulations. That's a big birthday.
yeah, no, everybody celebrates 53. So I want
Actually, they do.
really, is there a reason?
Yes, there is. It's a numerology number, 8.
Okay.
I hang out with a lot of people in that field.
I have many gaps in knowledge, and certainly anything that smacks of woo-woo to me, I try not to open up my mind to. But I'm sure for all the people who are adherents,
Yeah.
it has great meaning.
I totally get that. I'm a little bit unfortunately like that as well, but I've been hanging out more and more with them and I find them delightful. They're so positive. Why would
I
you not like hanging out with them, you know?
I absolutely agree. And that's again part of the contradictions we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
Is how you could, just how different people can get along, see the good in each other,
Yeah.
not focus on the differences, and maintain a positive affect.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about your concept of what you call the gilded cage, right? And this is so specific to, we got the book here. So hold that up for one more second. Maybe we could do a screenshot. All right. Um, So the Gilded Cage, so specific to certainly my target demographic, college educated, urban, six-figure earners, did all the right things, put themselves on the track, and what happens, Karen?
Exactly what happened to me. I was all of those things, and I found myself first in an absolutely miserable, abusive marriage because I had followed a checklist rather than my heart. And then once I got out of that horrific situation, thank God, years and years of turbulent dating because again, I couldn't quite understand what I was aiming for. And that's because most of us, most of our life, are conditioned to aim for things that are superficially acceptable to society and measure up to our potential instead of looking for what we genuinely want. Love is of the heart. The heart wants what it wants. It cannot be designed to look for a checklist. And that's what happened to me. That's what I see happening again and again and again in those particular circles.
So, so to circle back, the Gilded Cage, your terminology, what is it? How do you know if you're in the Gilded Cage? Is
Yeah.
it simply having everything on paper but feeling something missing inside?
Exactly. The Gilded Cage is a life that looks very good on Instagram or in appearances, but does not feel as good as it looks. And everybody knows the feelings that are indicative of this. There are feelings that are indicative of this, like aimlessness, loneliness, resentment, fear, sadness, just a very low hum, basically, of I am not where I'm supposed to be. I am not meeting my potential. I do not feel fulfilled. I think everybody knows this feeling. And it's incumbent upon us to understand that, as to paraphrase George Lucas, we're all living in a cage, but the door is open.
Mhm.
And your job is to make the decision at some point to just walk through it into the unknown.
So I'm going to try to play imperfectly the woman who's listening and wrestling with this.
Yeah,
Because when we talk about emotions, right, everything I do is about emotions, getting women, we probably overlap, getting women to listen to their feelings,
yeah,
right? Not just a checklist, not just their intellect. So many people made the wrong dating and relationship choice 20 years ago and tried to normalize that fear and aimlessness and anxiety and just reconcile it. Well,
exactly.
this is just life. This is just
Yeah.
love. This is the sacrifices that people have to make. Every relationship is imperfect. Every job is imperfect, right? So then we don't become content. We become almost anesthetized to the idea that life could be better.
Yes, we become complacent, as a matter of fact. And I've heard nonsensical things follow that. Number one, dating is hard. Why bother? Number two, I have to compromise. Number three, love is going to come with a cost, which is another way of saying compromise. And number four, I don't actually need to get married. These are all the four things that I hear. They run the gamut between compromise and nihilism or cynicism. And I want to say from the other side, and I know you'll agree with me as a happily married man, that's ridiculous. That's literally like walking into a bank and them offering you absolutely all the money and you saying, no, thanks, I'm good. It's just, why would you say no to everything that you've ever wanted?
I think for people who've had failure, right, who haven't been able to find it or choose it, uh, the act of continuing to persevere becomes too painful. So then we accept a lesser version of it that as long as it looks good to other people, we know there's
Yeah.
more to life, but we rationalize it as good enough. But what inside of us is telling us it's not and that there's more? What is that? How does
As
someone
the understanding that it's not everything. It should not feel like any form of compromise. Satisfaction is satisfaction. In the words of Jerry Seinfeld, that's a shame. If that's how you feel, that's a shame. And that's because you're just not willing to give yourself the fullness of what you desire. Now, this is completely human. It's very natural. The first thing I want to say is I've been there. I was there for many, many years. I myself remember reading a horrific book about a decade ago by Laurie Gottlieb called Marry Him, The Case for Marrying Mr. Good Enough.
this is perfect. We're gonna have some fun with this one. Go on.
and thinking that it is an emergency, that I must get married as quickly as possible, and that short, bald, everything works. Let's just get this over with. I ended up marrying checklist guy. He was tall and had wonderful hair, but he was a really miserable person. Truly, when I say abuse, I mean abuse. And this just doesn't work. It doesn't work. And I knew because I was unhappy in the relationship. I wasn't having fantastic sex. I wasn't enjoying his company. I literally remember sitting across from him at the dinner table again and again thinking, how the hell did this guy ever come near me? That this is literally the wrong approach. And I know many, many people are in that situation now. There's absolutely no reason to compromise your soul. All of these, including, by the way, the choice of a career that's annihilating your soul, is a Faustian bargain. And you don't have to have a Faustian bargain, is, of course, a deal with the devil. You don't have to go to that extreme in order to realize that you're in that. But if you are in that, then all I can say from the other side is keep going. It's worth it. You will find exactly what you want.
Okay. I'm going to risk taking the interview off its rails for a second. Okay.
Okay,
I'm doing it with consent.
sure.
Okay. So, what you call Lori Gottlieb's horrific book is an amazing book. The reason it's an amazing book is because I coached her throughout the book. Every other chapter, if you remember the book, is me. She's coaching with me, and I'm giving your message, right?
Well, didn't
And
work.
no, 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 it's
Maybe I
okay.
was too young to understand, or maybe I took it too literally. But
Right.
either way,
No,
it
but
did
I'm,
not
but
work.
the reason we're having this conversation, and I chose to bring this up instead of burying it, right, is because I think it's important, you and I, to
Yeah,
get our terminology straight and and to be able to give people something that they could take away from this conversation.
totally. And
Even if you
you
and
know
I
how
don't,
two people can read the same book? It's sort of like The English Patient. You can really love the movie, you can really not love the movie. I completely understand that. In my case, I was very young. Now, I also want to talk about the influences for a second because I respect you and I respect your work enormously. The context is I was in a tremendous scarcity mode. My self-worth was massively negative. I really, really needed to fix a problem. And I met that book from a place of fear. From a place of fear, making a compromise doesn't end up working. From a place that is full, from a place that understands its value, and from a place that then can really read the book as more nuanced, you could understand that essentially what's happening is the checklist doesn't matter. And you have to stop with the nonsense or the silliness or sloppiness of your status obsessed hallmarks and then reach your heart's desire. In that sense, if that's what you're trying to say, then totally, totally agree.
the first 3 pages of her book was the checklist that like the whole point of that book was
Yeah.
that the checklist was the wrong way to go about dating. Everything I was doing was about getting her to let go of the checklist, right? And so this is why I want to get into the
I
term
love this, Evan.
compromise.
You know, it's very rare that I get to revisit the past. It's about time I reread the book. Thank you
No,
for
I'm
calling
not
me out
telling
on
you
it.
to,
I'll
and
do that.
I'm not going to make a blind defense. I just really want, because I respect
Yeah.
you, and I don't
No, I
want
totally get it. I was young. I was young, and that's essentially the potential that magic combo brought everything
it.
together. But you're
It
helping me relitigate the past. It's
it's
great.
and listen, the fact that you're even open to this conversation says a lot about you, and I want to bring it back to your stuff in your book.
I've come a long way, baby.
I want to close the loop on this.
Yeah,
Your reaction to the book was the most common reaction to the book, but
yeah,
it was almost as if people just read the title, which wasn't written by her. It was the publisher to stimulate controversy. The case for settling for Mr. Goodenough. So it's like people couldn't get past the title to see the substance, and the substance is
yes,
exactly what we're talking about here.
of course. And it's possible that that created such a bias as
Sure.
well, that it was read with immense bias combined with meeting a place of low self-worth. And by the way, I'm completely familiar with this phenomenon. I've noticed that people who are feeling inadequate about themselves read my book as
Mm,
a triggering
right.
situation. So
Right,
this
right,
is
right.
just a wonderful conversation. It's truly enlightening. I've enjoyed this very much. Thanks for
So,
doing it.
no, so I want to ask, and you don't have to, obviously, we don't have to agree on anything, right? Since we're doing some version of the same thing, here to help women make good decisions that are consistent with their long-term goals so they could be happy for the rest of their lives. My definition, and it's an
Mm.
arbitrary one, is Compromise and settling involve the same thing in that they involve trade-offs, giving up something to get something else. But you compromise your way into happiness and you settle your way into misery, right?
Hmm.
So compromise in my language is a good thing. If you give
Yeah.
up on 6 feet tall because only 14% of men are 6 feet tall and 5% of Jewish men are 6 feet tall, right? If you compromise on that thing, that doesn't mean you're resigning yourself to a life of misery. It
Yeah, 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 yeah,
means,
yeah.
right? So
No,
to
I totally get it. Everything is about the nomenclature, right? Like people take issue with the word happiness, for example. So it's always down to definition.
well, you
I
use the word compromise as bad.
Yeah,
And
no,
then
not
my
at all.
concern
I
is that
think that I
if people see compromise as bad, then
yeah.
I don't know what tools I have to help.
No, but settling is bad, and
Yes.
compromising and a trade-off is very different from giving up, or surrendering something that is truly
Sure.
of value to you. For the record, I did marry a tall man, but I married a Gentile. So it does work out
And
sometimes.
I did too. And life is really good.
And life is really good. They're very lovely people.
What's the downside of being like this? This sort of perfectionist, I'm
Yeah.
things, he has to be these things, or I'm therefore settling and I've come too far than to settle.
The immense downside is making the external more powerful than you are, more important than you are, or manageable. None of these things are true. The only thing that really needs to work is you versus you. And if you are okay with you are aligned within yourself, you understand your worth, you understand how you want to live, then really nothing should matter. When you start to allow somebody to exist exactly as they are and adore them for exactly what they are, they will do the same for you.
That's it. It's so simple and it almost sounds Pollyanna-ish, right? And yet
Yeah, unfortunately, it took me 40 years to get there. So,
everybody, right? Just the idea that love is expansive and all people want, men and women, more than anything, right? It's, men want youth and beauty and they chase it, and women want intelligence and wealth and they chase it. But all we want is to be accepted and loved unconditionally.
yeah,
And if you could grant that to someone, and it doesn't mean they're not flawed, it means you're focusing on how they make you feel rather than their flaws.
exactly. Exactly.
And so this perfectionism, or let's go back to the career track, because we're talking to women who work 40, 50 hours a week. We call it the one really strong muscle. And this relationship muscle becomes underdeveloped because they're so successful at one thing, they think the other thing's going to take care of itself.
Hmm.
Does that square with your observation or your research?
I don't think that they think that the other thing's going to take care of itself. They just can't figure out how to work it in a way that is not congruent with the way that they've been conditioned to get their goals. I think the vast majority of men and women, I coach men and women who are pursuing love or really interested in love, as they apply the same skill set that's gotten them their success to love. And that's pursuit. That's working very hard. That's sifting and sorting. That's trying again and again. And love requires a completely different level of surrender. By the way, so does success. Success in and of itself, the real path to success is relaxation, surrender, humility, the exact opposite of what I was conditioned to develop as a younger and ambitious person. But hopefully, after a while, you start to recognize that doing the same thing over and over again and not getting the results you want is what's turned you off of it, is what's gotten you a little turned off by it. And hopefully, trying a different way will vibe a little better for you and definitely go easier.
So that's got to be a bit of a bitter pill to swallow
Yeah.
because this is who I am, right? This is my self-definition. I am the study hard, straight A's,
Yeah.
right? Like uh, it's almost my entire identity
Yes.
is to be this way, and it's brought me great success.
Mhm.
How are people supposed to take off this hat and put on a different hat and surrender, which again, I understand your terminology, but that sounds almost like the opposite of what any
Yeah.
driven person would do is surrender. So how do we get
Yeah.
people into this mode of thinking when it's antithetical to everything that's made them successful in life, from their SAT scores to their internships to their $1 million homes?
I think that the term surrender also begs a definition, and I'll get there in a second. But the first way to get there is to just ask yourself the question, how's that working for you? Success without satisfaction is not particularly successful. That's my main argument. If you don't wake up eager for the day and living in the feeling that you've dreamed of all your life, then what are you even doing around here? And that takes a moment of great humility and a moment of great honesty. This will bring you to a new level of desire and a new level, therefore, of attaining that desire. And that is going to involve surrender. Surrender does not mean giving up. It does not mean staying at home and just hoping that everything works out for you. Just to be clear, what surrender means is giving up the suffering. Giving up the suffering means surrendering the effort around this, surrendering the worry, the complaining, the spilches, if you will. And if you can actually start to do that, you will see things more objectively, more clearly. You will be much more relaxed. When you are more relaxed, you take very different action. You take action from a place that's much more chill, much more eager to go on the date, much more eager to try new things, much more open. And in that sense, you also allow people to get much closer to you. This is a very, very useful thing. And honestly, that's the whole point of the book, is to stop the effort. The effort is not working. I worked very, very hard all my life, and it got me a giant gilded cage, a job in which I was definitely not waking up eager for the day, a husband I genuinely did not want to touch with a 10-foot pole. This is not a really happy existence. It wasn't worth it. Instead, when I learned to chill and to just allow myself to breathe and to live my life and to then go about my desires, they came to me much, much easier.
So let's say someone's listening right now, listening to you, and it's cracking something open, right? That they know to be true but don't want to admit is true, right? And I wrote this down because I thought it was profound. Success is satisfaction, right? Success without satisfaction is not particularly successful. So we've got a whole bunch of listeners who are successful but don't feel
Yeah.
good about their lives, their love lives, etc. What's the next move? What action should they be taking once they've identified this low-level hum of dissatisfaction and suffering? Because there's understanding it, and then there's what do I do about it?
Oh, if they're at that place of sweet humility, of real, like, okay, you know what? I'm okay. I'm gonna take an ego blow. I get it. I don't want to admit that everything I've done hasn't worked, but I'm willing to consider it. Then I would lunge at it from a completely different place. I would actually jump at the chance to work with someone like Evan and to change my life. I've had many, many coaches. Many of us have had many coaches, many teachers. But the one who changed my life was Catherine Alice, who was my love attraction
Really?
coach. Yes.
Okay.
Interestingly
Well, I mean,
enough,
I know pretty much everybody in my very small industry, so I'm friendly with her. I'm so glad. She's lovely.
she's a very, very special woman. And I remember years later just reuniting with her for an interview and saying, hang on a second, I got a surprise for you. And Ryan came into the room and we both just started sobbing with gratitude, just sobbing with gratitude. The thing that matters most, the thing that changes your life most is allowing yourself to really love somebody. And when you understand success in terms that do not allow for that, then you are not allowing yourself to have the fullness of what this life has to offer to you. And honestly, you can hear that in my voice. That breaks my heart a little.
Yeah, I mean, I think people like us who stand on our soapboxes and have these conversations, it's hard not to be a little evangelical, right? In that right, like the way, right, Christian evangelicals, you feel like you have the secret to life and you want to spread the word, right? You want everybody to have this, right?
Yeah,
Because it is so key
you
to,
really, really do. And I always hear that in your podcast. Yeah, you're very genuine, and I want you to have this too. And especially once you figure it out, like you said earlier, it is so simple. It is so simple. It's just going to require of you to do the opposite of everything you have done.
but that's the challenge. And so again, I'm putting myself in the shoes of the someone who's like, okay, so I believe them. I hear them. My body's telling me that this isn't the end. This isn't the life I want to lead. This sort of solo, soulless grind, keeping really, really busy, Instagram, travel, work, right? Like, right, hookup culture, right? Like something's not working for me here. And I still feel that they're blaming me,
Mm.
right? If
Mm.
only you did
Oh,
something.
no, we're not
No,
blaming you at all. We're just
the,
telling you that
the
you've listened
absence.
to conditioning. No, no.
Right. But I'm saying because
Oh,
both things can be true.
yeah.
And this is the hard part is once people feel you're not sympathetic to them, they feel attacked. So how
Mm.
can we in this moment say we can hold two thoughts in our head at the same time? Your city might be challenging, the dating apps might be
Sure.
challenging, men might be challenging, the times might be challenging.
Yes.
All of these things are true. And you're going to be much more effective in love when you're coming from a place of softness and openness and curiosity
Yeah.
rather than drive and need. Right. Again,
Yeah, just be pragmatic about it. I mean, honestly, both things can be true. I met Ryan in New York City. I mean, I had heard all my life how terrible the odds were, let alone with the apps and let alone with the fact that I'm pretty unusual in my configuration. I have a pretty visible career, and um, I've been told all my life that I suffer from a great case of sass mouth, and the gentlemen don't enjoy this. This was all nonsense to me. I understood that for every one case like this, there had to be a counterbalanced case. There simply has to be a counterbalanced case. And the real argument, the pragmatic argument, is what have you got to lose? Is what have you got to lose? There are enough people who are demonstrating that you can have what you want. Why not place your focus on them and just see what happens? There's no guarantee for anything, but at least this is going to give you a much better chance, academically speaking, of getting
Sure.
what you want.
Right. It's yeah, it's an experiment. Hey, try something
Exactly.
different because this thing that you've been doing, this way you've been, how you've allocated your time and resources and in life has led you to this point where you're feeling this deep level of
Yeah.
dissatisfaction. So let's bring it back to your personal story. Um, Most of us come from some place of I've been trying to work my stuff out. I worked my stuff out. Now I'm going to help other people work their stuff out. What caused you to uh, identify this phenomenon inside of you, maybe blow up your old life, and then connect this to helping other people? Like what's the story of how many years that
Yeah,
process?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I got really lucky. I blew up my life before going on this journey. And it started with the divorce. It started with just I could not tolerate the marriage any longer. In that sense, I was very lucky. An abusive marriage is truly intolerable. Have you ever seen the movie Sleeping with the Enemy? You know what I was living with. I just had to get out of there because I was really afraid for my safety. So I announced that I was getting divorced. I moved into a friend's house with my two cats and my things. I'm in my mid 30s at that point. And so this is quite a humiliating thing, but I also realized I had to get home. I was in Zurich at the time. I'd married a Swiss guy and moved back to New York City. Couldn't find a job for a really long time. So basically, all of the hallmarks of my life, all the pillars that I'm relying on, are starting to be decimated. And so this is when I start turning into the study, mostly because I didn't have anything else to do. And a friend's library included many self-help books. And so I started to go on this journey, and little by little, nothing changed in my environment, but I start feeling very different. I was obsessed with the material. I was genuinely interested in the information. Book after book after book starts to appear. This is when I start to study. I started to study with coaches when I could afford it because I became broke pretty quickly on account of fantastic spending habits and a divorce. And that's a joke, of course. I also, during this time, lost all my things in a fire. I really had a very wide stroke of
Wow.
bad luck. And this is when, on a friend's sofa, I start to accumulate little by little more and more money. And first, I hired the first coach that resonated with me, then another one. And about 4 years later, on and off, in a cycle of jobs, I continue to develop this passion more and more. And I'm starting to fly. Like everything is just starting to click into place for me. This is when I decided as an experiment in 2016 to sit down and write my own program. And it was really just a program to get you out of confusion in any dimension and into clarity. And that's Live with Enthusiasm. I wrote it in 2 weeks. I announced it in December of 2016. In January 2017, we've sold every single spot that I had available. I'm still in a day job for a year during this. And this took off. It just completely took off.
That's
I
amazing.
also met Ryan.
Yeah, there's sort of fertile times in our life when
Yeah,
all the pieces sort of come together. And I think we're sometimes waiting, right? A lot of women I work with are waiting for the right time, right? I'm divorced, but I'm waiting for my kids to grow up, or
yeah,
right, like so they're just waiting for the perfect time instead of realizing you have the ability to catalyze this because
yeah.
it's not 24/7. I don't want anybody to go, yeah, I'm a dating coach. I don't want you to go on a 24/7 husband hunt. That's not the most effective way to go about things.
No.
Um, so
But to do the inner work, I mean, if I can offer any advice to
yeah.
anyone out there, is do it now.
So let's bring it back to that woman who's listening. People come to me and probably come to you when you listen to their origin stories. There's usually a catalyst. There's something going on in their life right now. I just got divorced. I just got dumped, right? I just went on my fifth bad date with a guy who hooked up with me and didn't text me, right? Like there's a big pain point, and that person's looking for answers because, to the best of their knowledge, they have everything going for them and they can't figure it out. That person who's rebuilding, whether it's their career or their love life, reimagining what their future could look like, how do they rebuild from scratch with wisdom and grace and self-love? Like what's the path for them? Because it's easy to say, hey, hire me as a coach, but like they're sitting on the sidelines right now saying, okay, everything you're saying is true. What does that mean for me today? What's my takeaway? So I'm not beating myself up about how I got here. It's
Yeah.
proactive looking forward.
Well, the first thing you need to do is gather your strength. If you're weary, if you're burnt out, if you're overwhelmed, and certainly if you're going right now through the moment of divorce, which is excruciatingly hard, even if you don't care for the other person, because it involves lawyers and loss. Take your time. You have to come to a place where you are actually in an emotional state that is conducive to beginning over. I always advise people to start over when they're genuinely feeling more frisky, when they're eager, when they're truly eager. The second thing to do is to come to terms with what was is over. In other words, you have accepted that everything up until this point has not borne fruit for you, and you are absolutely ready to harvest a new crop, if you will. And then the third is take action. Take action from that place that is truly relaxed, truly inspired, genuinely believes in the possibility of this working out. And that, to me, genuinely means going on an inner journey of sorts. If you can afford it and if you are in the place to do it, hire somebody to work with you. They're going to make this faster and better and easier for you in every way.
So and thank you for that. And again, I think that's so important. When you talk about fear, right? I just wrote a newsletter today about fear. Fear is basically everywhere, and it's the most paralyzing force
Yeah.
because it means no matter what you do, you feel like things are going to work out. If I date, it's just going to be rejection. If I don't date, I'll be alone forever. If I fall in love with someone, it might be another abusive
Yeah.
relationship, or I might get abandoned. So fear is on every side of us. And
It's a
so what do we,
lose-lose.
so then we just sort of stay retrenched and just stay exactly where we are.
Yeah, you're playing not to lose instead of playing to win. But if you're really, really starting to feel frisky and you start to get a glimpse of, oh my gosh, I actually might pull this off, that's all you need. Oh, I might get away with it. It might work out for me. That's enough to actually put you back on the court.
Right. And that's an abundance mentality.
Absolutely. And I always say I can't do that for you. And I'm not in the position. My rabbi always says if an old lady doesn't want to cross the street, don't drag her. I have learned to just not push people into something that they don't want to do or they're not ready to do. But if you are ready, we will happily take you by the hand.
That's right. In a way, it's almost like dating. I mean, I talk about my work is like I put a whole bunch of free stuff out on the internet, and a small percentage of those people engage me to work together. I don't have to beg you to work with me, and just
Yeah.
like you shouldn't have to beg a guy to call you or text you or commit to you. Like people do.
Oh, they never.
No, I'm saying people do things by their own volition, but so much of
Yes.
our life is spent. But I want him to,
Uh,
and
But again,
imagine,
there's that overworking impulse
right?
working against you.
But that's
Surrender is the opposite of that. Surrender is knowing that the universe is good and that you are good and that he can.
right. But that, I mean, listening to this podcast, imagine thousands of people, theoretically, the people reality. All I need is a handful of
That's
people
right.
who want to take this challenge on, and I'm making a difference, and they're getting served. And that's what love is. There's millions of men out there who are not emotionally available, who are not up to par, who can't be good husbands no matter how hard they try. They don't even count in this equation. Who cares about them? All we need is one guy to step up to the plate. But if you've got your blinders on and your guard up, that guy's never going to get through. So
Yeah.
bring this home. Why is those blinders and that guard so antithetical to love?
They're antithetical to what you are. They don't make any sense. Love is,
No, but I've been hurt. I'm protecting myself.
sure, you can do that, but love isn't about protection. Love is about full throttle vulnerability. Anyone who has children knows that. This is not a question of guarantee. This is just about adoring someone. And to adore someone is truly the most selfless of all acts. That's genuinely who you are. When we start to make it transactional, when we start to make anything transactional, including our podcasts,
Yeah.
we are very sorely disappointed, as we should be, because the universe doesn't work that way. The universe responds to just open channel adoration. If you're ready to be truly adoring and to listen and to relax through things, you will find the reciprocity that you've been looking for all your life, and you will not have to coerce it for a single second.
So for my type A women, how do they stay true to themselves as achievers, right? They don't like, because someone might be like, oh, the black and white thinking, oh, I'm a corporate lawyer who's a partner. I'm supposed to just be like a docile homemaker. That's not who I am. So how do women, without entirely blowing up their lives, reframe things, right? Where
Yeah,
they can still be who they are
yeah,
and not be passive participants in their love life. They have to be somewhat proactive.
yeah.
What's the act of doing while staying in your feminine surrender? It's there's sounds like there's internal contradictions. How do we square those?
Sure. Number one, the internal contradiction is based on a flawed premise, and that flawed premise is that you will have to settle or compromise in the negative sense a part of your soul, that the marriage will actually subtract from you. It will mean that you now have to become some kind of a docile thing, an icon of the 50s, perhaps. This is completely flawed because 40% of American households now are female dominated. In other words, we are out earning them. 15% of American households, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, are now far out earning their husbands. So don't worry about this. You're never going to have to cook, and I will not have to cook in my lifetime either. We're good. The second thing to understand is that I think it's the most high value thing that you can do because the understanding then is that the marriage is not just one plus one equals two, it's one plus one equals 11, as my parents always say. It's truly exponentially magnifying your power. It releases all of that energy that you've been using to essentially block off a part of your life to allow you to really have wings. There is nothing more formidable and more useful than a really great marriage.
Um, yeah, spoken like a true evangelical.
Man, I am drinking the Kool-Aid, but when you meet Ryan, you'll see why.
I feel the same way.
Won the lottery.
I'm
Yeah.
so proud to talk about my wife and to show her off when I do like retreats. People are like they're more excited to meet my wife than they are to meet me. Um,
Yeah. They're always happier to meet Ryan. Yeah.
right, and I totally get that. And
Yeah.
it's actually you don't remember Lori Gottlieb's book the way I do. I was very involved
No,
in.
I'm gonna reread it. Don't worry. Don't worry. I stand corrected. We're
No,
good.
no, it's okay. I'm not relitigating that. If anything, I'm saying there's the chapter where Lori introduces my wife, right?
Man, I don't, it was 20 years ago, but
Right. And she meets my wife and she's like, I'm not impressed. Right? Like that's the story. She basically says she was average, right?
oh, man, if I had read that, I definitely would have had an antagonistic reaction. But it is what it is.
No, but her point was, and this is to our point. My wife is average because she didn't go in an Ivy League school, right? She's attractive, but she's not the first person you notice on the street, right? She had a cool job traveling around the world, but she wasn't some sort of high-powered lucrative thing.
Yeah.
So Lori made the connection in that moment, even though it would sound like an attack on my wife. So this guy, Evan, that I respect, chose her while I, Stanford, Yale, NPR, I'm still single, and this guy chose her. What am I missing?
Mm.
That was the point of the story, right? It sounds like a dig at my wife, but obviously he's getting something out of this relationship, right? This guy
Oh
that
man,
looks,
you're making it sound like a very beautiful book that I must reread it once.
yeah,
Yeah,
again,
you and you're also
I'm not
describing
telling
Ryan.
it's that
Exactly.
it's that it's
Yeah.
so personal because it actually involves me,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. No, but it's actually really wonderful. It really paints everything with a different light. And perhaps, and I know that Karen today, Karen 20 years later, would completely have a different reaction and a different understanding of what's going on there. So it's a beautiful thing. We've come full circle. And what I was describing, therefore, was really not her work or that book. It
Sure.
was Karen at 30 years of age who was in a completely different situation and was only prone to sensationalism. But Karen today has married exactly what you married and is very, very happy
Right. Right. We married the best people for us.
by far.
And you don't need to compare them side by side to other people to just say, hey, I'm happy. And when I reverse engineered, why am I happy? The
Yeah,
first person who ever accepted me for who I was without trying to change me. Right. So I've dated more impressive people. That's not an
yeah,
insult to my, I've dated more impressive. That's accurate. But I've never been happier than I am in this relationship. So why would I blow up this relationship? And
exactly.
that's that reverse engineering. That is the process that I try to get everybody to. The goal is your happiness, is your satisfaction,
Yeah,
not to be in the gilded cage that you show off to everybody.
exactly. And you're bringing it perfectly full circle to the very, very beginning of this conversation, which was so many of us are conditioned to look for hallmarks of success, to look for some kind of a facsimile of what life is supposed to look like if and when you are successful, but we're not actually following our heart. What your heart wants is what your heart wants. Your heart knows what's good for you. It has nothing to do with their height. Zero.
Right. But I can't help what I'm attracted to, Karen.
I get that, and they are very nummy, but believe me, there's going to be somebody that transcends that for you.
Right.
You'll see, and
So
you'll know when you meet him.
can I ask, this is personal, you could refuse not to answer. We may or may not use the same terminology, but my question is, what compromises did you make on your partner Ryan, who you speak glowingly about, right? That's different than the original image you had for your partner, because again, you're happy, so that you win. So
Oh yeah,
who's listening, who's like, Evan says compromise, Karen doesn't say compromise, but
yeah. I guess the
what did,
checklist was out the window, so none of it really mattered anymore. But if you were looking at just plain what I was orienting myself towards, always, Ryan has never had an Ivy League education, no fancy schools whatsoever. Um, he's not a high earner.
Mhm,
Um, he's much more erudite than he is flashy.
mhm,
I think he only owns two kinds of shirts, denim and flannel. There's nothing showy about the guy. There's
uh-huh,
nothing interested in class at all.
uh-huh.
And who knew? Who knew that apparently I was a kibbutznik in my former life? And this is exactly what appeals to me.
Right.
But it was only when I opened my mind a little bit and just started to listen that I thought, holy bananas, where have you been all my life?
But the point is where you've been. You weren't looking for him.
I wasn't looking
You
for
weren't
him.
shopping
Exactly.
in that aisle of the store where the Ryans were available,
Exactly.
right? And most of
And it's always the last place you look. In my case, North Dakota. You know what
North
I mean?
Dakota.
You really have to let your heart actually let you follow something. And as Catherine Ellis always says, as you always says, crackling chemistry is crackling chemistry. It's undeniable. You will feel it. And who knows, he might not be 6 foot too, or
Okay.
have gone to Princeton.
Um, is there something else? And again, I know I've taken us on a series of tangents. That's my fault. Is there something else that you sort of want to close with that's relevant to this conversation, relevant from your book, from your message, from your work, that if people were to take one thing away from this conversation, this would be the takeaway?
Well, the first thing I want to say is it's been actually really, really special conversation. I've done about 50 of these, and this is the first time in a very long time that I've genuinely enjoyed the conversation. So it's been wonderful. I hope everybody out there has really, really enjoyed this. It's an unusual and special conversation. The second thing I want to say is once you understand your worth, there will be no questions externally. The real work is to line up with who you really are. When you understand who you really are, the externals just don't matter anymore. You can genuinely do whatever you want with your life. You will realize that that cage door has been open the entire time. The work is worth
And then that opens up the dating pool infinitely
infinitely.
compared to that very, I'm only interested in the 1% of men who's just like me.
All right, if you want to still play that game, 1% of all men in America is 3 million people. Enjoy. That's a pretty large pool.
I agree because to be happy, and actually I want to circle back to one more thing. You used in your notes to me the word soulmate. Now
Yeah.
I try not to traffic in soulmates. It makes feels like it makes my job even harder to get someone their soulmate. But how would you define soulmate love and why it's achievable
Oh, yeah.
without making it this thing even harder?
No, soulmate love is the love that is corrective of your personality. It really allows your soul to shine. In that sense, it can occur several times in your lifetime. As my rabbi once explained it to me, I just love the concept. It's not about twin flame. It's not about like coming together with someone who lights you up and is filled with sex and really, really fun and usually quite emotionally draining. This is somebody who comes against you to really refine and elevate your soul in this lifetime. And in that sense, you can come against this again and again and again. I love that framing because I truly enjoy this an idea as a mate for your soul and not for your physical body. It takes you out of the external orientation and opens you up to something that really resonates with you on a different level.
That's beautiful. I'm so glad you have that. I'm so glad you came to this podcast. I'm so glad that you're doing this work to help other people get it. You could find Keren on Instagram at Coach Keren. You can find her on LinkedIn, Keren Eldad, her website, Keren Eldad, and her book, Gilded, Breaking Free from the Cage of Ambition, Perfectionism, and the Relentless Pursuit of More. It's a mouthful of the title, and it's so spot on. Um, it's not that you shouldn't want more, it's that if the pursuit of more is actually making you unhappy, please listen to that inner voice. Please listen to your feelings and let those feelings guide you. Um, Keren, thank you for being on the Love You podcast.
Evan, thank you so much.
My pleasure. This is Evan Marquez. Thank you for joining me. Make sure you subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. Please leave us a positive review, especially about today's episode. I thought this was surprising and took us into some interesting directions. And it was the kind of conversation that I think you should be having in real life with people who don't exactly agree with you on everything, and then you find the overlap between your worldviews. I think there's something really, really healthy and timely about that. Make sure you subscribe to the Extraordinary Love Series, extraordinaryloveseries.com, which is free. And if you listen to today's podcast and you do not go to Karen's site and hire her right now, then go to evanmarkatz.com/now. Get on the phone with me. If you are emotionally ready, I'm not chasing you down. If you want this transcendent soulmate type love, and something in your heart says, I'm not getting it on my own, I'd be honored to talk to you. I love you. I appreciate you. I thank you for joining me, and I will talk to you soon. Bye bye.